At the end of the 16th century, the small German town of Bedburg was the scene of a series of macabre events that still intrigue historians and occult enthusiasts to this day. At the center of this dark story is Peter Stumpf, a local farmer whose life and alleged crimes have become a legend that mixes historical reality, medieval superstition, and the supernatural terror of werewolves. Want to know more about this bizarre story? Then subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Depending on who you want to believe, Peter Stumpf was an extremely disturbed individual, someone with an undiagnosed mental illness, a victim of the religious wars between Catholics and Protestants, or a werewolf acting under the command of the devil himself. Little is known about Peter Stumpf's origins or previous life, and what led to his eventual confession that he was responsible for the deaths of dozens of innocents. What we do know about Stumpf is that he was a farmer in the small German town of Bedburg at the end of the 16th century. He probably led a hard life, similar to many other villagers in this time of great trials and few rewards. The man was captured in 1589 after a series of horrific crimes occurred in the vicinity of Bedburg, brutal even for that period of extreme violence. At first, it was believed that the bloody murders were the result of attacks by wild animals, probably wolves roaming the forested region. Stumpf became a suspect in the crimes after being seen walking through the forest at night, just when a group of hunters hired to eliminate the wolf pack were searching for the beasts. The hunters tracked a huge black wolf to an isolated area of the forest and lost its tracks. Soon after, they spotted Stumpf with blood-stained clothes and in a suspicious attitude. The farmer could not explain why he was wandering through the forest at that time of night. He also claimed that he had not seen any wolf, which to the hunters was impossible, since the animal should have passed right by him. Later, the hunters would have told an even more incredible story, in which they had witnessed Stumpf transform from wolf to man right before their eyes. But this story was only reported during the trial that took place weeks later. The hunters accompanied the farmer to his house and returned to Bedburg before dawn. 3 days passed, and a sheep was found dead in the field. The hunters went to the place to check if a wolf was the culprit. On that occasion, the men were accompanied by the city magistrate and casually commented to him about the strange man they had found walking through the forest. Impressed, the magistrate demanded that they accompany him to Stumpf's house. Upon arriving there, they found the farmer in bed, supposedly sick, suffering from horrible headaches. The magistrate interviewed him, and when Stumpf was unable to explain where he had been the night before or offer a solid alibi, he was arrested. In the house, the men found blood-stained clothes, and Stumpf could not explain whose blood it was since he had no injuries. The farmer did not react, simply surrendering willingly, and was escorted to Bedburg. In the town, he was questioned by 2 other magistrates. According to the main source detailing the events, a document entitled "The Damnable Life and Death of Stubby Peter," written by George Boers, after being stretched on the rack by the authorities, he confessed his heinous crimes. According to the court records against Peter Stumpf, then 37 years old, there was much to confess. Under severe torture, he recounted that at the age of 12, he began the service of black magic and witchcraft, becoming a servant of the devil himself. The farmer continued to relate how Beelzebub in person gifted him with a magic belt that allowed him to assume the form of a wolf, strong and powerful, with eyes that could see in the dark, sharp claws and cruel fangs that he used to shred his victims. As a wolf, he could run through forests and fields without anyone suspecting his identity, and thus kill with impunity. When asked about the whereabouts of this magic belt, Stumpf insisted that he had dropped it shortly before being found by the hunters in the forest. Without the powers of the belt, he felt incomplete, which was reflected in the searing headaches that tormented him, a punishment from the devil for being careless. After a search in the forest in which no supposed magic belt was found, Stumpf reported that the devil had contacted him at night and said that he would hide the object so that it would not fall into anyone's hands. The devil had become furious with his servant for being captured and for revealing his nefarious bargains. Although it sounds ridiculous and fantastic, the account was corroborated by witnesses who emerged from all sides claiming to have always suspected something diabolical about the farmer. This, and the word of 2 hunters who later remembered seeing the transformation from wolf to man, were enough to build an entire case against him. The farmer revealed in his trial before a terrified audience that he had used the belt over many years to transform into a werewolf. By using this terrible power, Stumpf explained that he felt compelled to consume blood and flesh, an uncontrollable desire to quench his thirst by killing newborn calves, sometimes with his own teeth, to drink their still warm blood. Later, he began to kill and devour human victims. Exactly how many people Stumpf had killed was not clear to the court. At times he said it had been 7, then increased to 10, and finally arrived at the sum of 14. Then he claimed that 14 were just the children, which included his son Johann, whose raw brains he had devoured in the midst of a murderous frenzy. His long list of atrocities also included the murder of 2 pregnant women, whose fetuses he had also cannibalized. first. Before the judges, he explained that the belt caused a voracious sexual appetite which forced him to cultivate lovers, seek prostitutes, and when these were lacking, attack women. Several of them would have become pregnant by him, giving birth to children who, according to the farmer, would grow up to become werewolves. Stumpf went so far as to name 3 women with whom he had had sexual relations who resided in Bedburg, one of whom, called Katharina Trompen, would have given birth to a child with a wolf's head and a baby's body. Trompen was arrested and accused of conspiracy with witchcraft, even though an examination had attested that she was a virgin, and therefore could not have had a baby. Nevertheless, she ended up being tried along with another woman of unknown name who was supposed to be the farmer's lover. After 4 weeks of trial and shocking descriptions, Stumpf was sentenced to death. It is possible that Stumpf committed brutal crimes. Serial killers have always been present throughout history, emerging in all human societies. It is also quite likely that he confessed to these crimes, as stated in the official records of his trial. Criminals of this nature sometimes tend to seek a macabre type of recognition after their capture. It's as if they wanted their work to be known by the greatest number of people. It is necessary to understand, however, that a confession doesn't mean much. Sometimes serial killers, even today, invent victims that don't exist, the result of their fantasies and anxieties. Moreover, torture may have resulted in fictional confessions to gain the clemency of the accusers. However, it has also been speculated that the farmer may have simply been a victim of the troubled political scenario of the time, with hysteria regarding werewolves and other supernatural creatures. Bedburg was part of a region dominated by Protestants. Expelled in 1587 by Count Werner von Zohm and his Catholic soldiers, some suggest that Stumpf was Protestant like many who resided in the area, and that he may have been used as an example to others. Those who defend this theory use as evidence the fact that Stumpf's execution was attended by nobles, dignitaries, and even princes of Germany who came from afar to watch the execution, something strange for the nobility of the time. This is unusual, as nobles preferred to keep their distance from this type of execution, considering martyrdom unpleasant and pedestrian. It is possible, however, that the alleged crimes were so fantastic that even the aristocracy showed interest in knowing the man behind them. Whatever the truth about the crimes, there is no shortage of details about the brutal manner in which Peter Stumpf was executed. Stumpf's lover and Katharina Trompen were condemned to die burned at the stake. Treated as witches, they were hanged before being tied to posts and having their bodies set on fire with oil. Stumpf's end would be much more elaborate. For the Werewolf of Bedburg, the judges chose one of the cruelest methods of execution, to be broken on the wheel. Thus, on October 31st, 1589, Stumpf was locked in an iron cage transported by a carriage to the city of Cologne, the largest burg in the region. During his journey to the city square, citizens shouted and threw objects at him. At first, the supposed werewolf reacted by cursing at the populace, but after almost being lynched, he was content to sit quietly. In the square, he was tied with ropes to a wooden wheel, wrists, ankles, and neck firmly immobilized at angles that caused excruciating pain. The first part of the martyrdom was marked by the use of sharp, red-hot metal pliers that tore out entire pieces of skin and muscle from his legs and arms to expose the bones. Then, using a small axe, the executioner skillfully broke the bones, separating the limbs from the trunk, one by one. After dying, Stumpf's head was severed with the same small axe and separated from the body. His shattered body and limbs were placed on the same pyre where his concubines, killed on the eve of his death, were burning. As for Stumpf's head, it was stuck on a pole attached to the torture wheel. A plaque with the drawing of a wolf was nailed just below it. It was displayed in the center of the square for public appreciation, as a warning to all witches and sorcerers. The head of the werewolf would have disappeared 2 nights later, giving rise to all kinds of rumors and legends about a human ghost with a lupine head wandering the streets of Cologne. The ghost of the Werewolf of Bedburg haunted the city for many years, causing citizens to seek the blessing of Saint Hervé, who traditionally protects people against wolf attacks. Saint Hervé gained a chapel near where the execution took place, which caused the ghost to stop being seen. Today, it is not possible to know whether Peter Stumpf was or was not responsible for the horrendous crimes that haunted Bedburg, but his name survives, surrounded by infamy and horror, considered by many as one of the most notorious criminals of his time, an era of superstition, brutality, and violence. The story of Peter Stumpf, the alleged Werewolf of Bedburg, is more than a simple medieval horror tale. It is a dark mirror that reflects the fears, beliefs, and injustices of a turbulent era. Centuries after his brutal execution, Stumpf's case case continues to intrigue and disturb. It makes us question not only the veracity of the narrated events, but also the social and psychological mechanisms that allow such narratives to gain life and power. The legacy of the Werewolf of Bedburg persists in local folklore, literature, and popular culture, demonstrating the enduring power that stories of terror and mystery exert over our collective imagination. Peter Stumpf's story remains an enigma shrouded in shadows of the past, but its lessons about the dangers of mass hysteria, the excesses of justice without compassion, and the persistence of our deepest fears remain painfully relevant to this day. May the distant echo of the howls of the Werewolf of Bedburg serve not only to give us chills, but to warn us about the monsters that can still emerge from the shadows of our own ignorance and fear. Do you think Peter Stumpf was really a werewolf? Or was this all just hallucinations of a disturbed man? Leave your answer in the comments and let's debate about the various theories about this macabre case. If you liked the video, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you'll always receive notifications of more videos from the channel. Until next time.